So here we are back in as the end user, and we're looking at the home page again. We're actually going to go back to the Acme version 2 MRV. This MRV we're going to pretend is ready for submission for approval. We haven't filled in all the fields in reality, but in a real world scenario, all of the fields would be filled out and the customer would feel ready to submit this for internal approval. That means they've entered in all the information on the monitoring plan and they've entered in all the information on their aircraft. So what they would do is they would come to this record and they would click on submit for approval. And what that's going to do is it's going to lock this record and it's going to submit it internally to the flight tracker administrator. And that person is going to look through this entire MRV and see whether it's ready for submission to the member state. So let's go ahead and see how that works. So I'll click on submit it for approval. It'll tell me once you submit this record, you may not be able to edit it anymore, which is true. So we'll go ahead and click on OK. And we'll see now there's a little lock here. This means that this is locked. This locks both this monitoring plan and any of the aircraft information on the aircraft record. So if I scroll down to the aircraft record and I click on that aircraft, I'll see that also if I try to change, I also cannot edit that particular record. So I've submitted that. Let's go back to the monitoring plan so we can see what that looks like. So I can look at approval history already. I can see that it's been submitted and it's sitting in the MRV internal approval queue, which means it's the internal approval that it has to go through first, and it's sitting in pending. So let's go over to Firefox here, and this is where the administrator is logged in. So I'm just going to do a refresh of this page. And I'll see in my items to approve queue, I see that this particular monitoring plan has been submitted for approval. So it's the Acme Flight Department who submitted it. It tells me what it's related to, so I can go in and take a look at that particular monitoring plan, which is what I would do. I would come here, I would review all of this data, I would review the aircraft, I would make sure that everything is correct and everything that's required to submit this to the member state is here. Once I've done that, I would be able to approve it. So I can come here and as the administrator I can either approve or reject it. If I reject it, it means it goes back to the end user and I give them a rejection reason. So maybe they're missing something or some information is incorrect, so they would go and fix that. It would unlock the record, they would fix it, and then they'd resubmit. I'm going to go ahead and approve this record. So it says, I'm going to say this looks great. We should have full approval within 8 weeks from member state. And I'm going to go ahead and click on approve. So what's happened here is if we go back to the approval history, we'll see that it's been approved by the MRV internal approval queue. We have a comment. The end user, the customer, got an email saying it's been approved and it's sitting in this next state, and that email will also state that now it's going to the next state. And so what's happening now is it's gone to another queue. It's basically waiting again. Internally what would happen is we would send this monitoring plan to the member state and wait for full approval. Once that full approval comes along, we would come back to our home tab and we would see that this is here again for items to approve, and the reason for that is because it's gone to the next stage of approval. So I can go back to it, or I can just go straight to approve/reject. In this case, because we would have just received documentation that this was approved, I could just click directly on here. I would click and say member state approval, attachment of approval document below, and I'd go ahead and approve it. So what we would do at that point is we would have a scan of the actual approval from the member state, which we would attach at the notes and attachments section here. And you'll see now in the approval history section, it's fully approved. So it's in fully approved status. So when I go back here as the end user, I would be able to refresh this record, and I will be able to see that it's fully approved. At this point, I can start logging flights against this particular monitoring plan, and then I can start doing all of the work that's related to logging flights. This is the end of this particular demo. The next demo will show all of the flight information and how to enter that, and the resulting reports and dashboards.